It's not far from here. It's not far away, love, and if you come, I know a place where we'll belong, and we'll talk of life the way love used to be. I know a place not far away, we'll find a way through the city street. We'll find a way through the mad rushing crowd, and we'll talk about the way love used to be. It's not far from here. It's not far away, love, and if you come, I know a place where we'll belong, and we'll talk about the way love used to be.
Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and get ready for 12 scintillating rounds of heavyweight action. For the heavyweight alternative reality top 12 glyph list.
And then you pay the price, the things we do for love, the things we do for love.
Heavyweight contender number 12 for the alternate reality top 12 glyph list is what I like to call the pregnant glyph. And I think that anybody looking at it, it's quite obvious. You can see a pregnant woman. A person carrying a child. I mean, it's so literal. And I mean, quite often they are very literal. I've seen many, many examples of that. Probably the most outstanding one was when they, do the tent glyph for Sue and I when we were camping in here in this exact place. But, yeah, it's a pregnancy glyph, and Raja Say, the female that I was connected to at the time, was pregnant at that time. And there were many, many glyphs talking about that pregnancy. And this was my favorite, probably because even though it's funny, I'm not a literal person. I'm probably misunderstood a lot of the time because I'm not literal, and so many people I talk to seem to be literal. Or whatever. Or maybe I just don't make any sense. But, some of their glyphs are very, very literal where you just cannot mistake the meaning, and I think this is one of them. And so, as it turned out, Rajase actually had twins, and that was about 5 years ago now. And I remember it was quite the celebration. You know, Sasquatch from all over came to celebrate, is what I was told. And I did feel tremendous energy at that time. So there was definitely something going on. And also there was just an abundance of glyphs everywhere, like they were just scattered across the forest floor, as a message of celebration. And so I love this glyph because it spoke of the pregnancy, a precursor to it. And it was just a beautiful, message, personal message, family message, like we're expecting. Celebrate with us. Yeah, and like I said, it is so literal, and I just love it. It's so clean, and you look at it, and there's no mistaking it. And I personally feel the energy connected with it, and the design, just the way it was put together, or whatever. I do feel it was Rajase herself, the mother of the twins, who made that glyph. And I guess the celebration, actually, it was such a celebration because twins are quite rare, I think, in the Sasquatch world. Not unheard of, but probably, from my understanding, rarer than in humans. So it was quite a celebration. And plus, I guess this clan is known far and wide. I mean, they're a well-known teaching clan. They're amazing. So, and not just because they're my guys. They're amazing. They've reached out to so many people that, the Sasquatch can get down and party just like the best of us. And so that is heavyweight alternate reality contender number 12, and it's just gorgeous. I love it. Love it.
Agree to disagree, but disagree to part. When after all it's just a compromise of the things we do for love. 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 People say I'm the life of the party 'cause I tell a joke or two. Although I might be laughing loud and hearty, deep inside I'm blue. So take a good look at my face.
Alternate reality contender number 11 is actually a tie. The first picture from your left, or on your left, is a picture from, I don't know, probably 6-7 years ago. And the one on the right is just recent. Just received it like about 3 weeks ago. And these outstanding examples are what I call Sasquatch calling card glyphs, which is a glyph, an obvious glyph, with a footprint either in it or right beside it. Now the one I received about 7 years ago on the left just got a beautiful direction glyph there. And the footprint, if you notice, is also pointing in that direction. So to me that says, I went this way. But I remember I was, at the time, I was spending a little time in another area, checking another area out. And it's funny because my clan, I'm not so sure they liked it that much. I got a little jealous, believe it or not. It felt that way. Or they felt a little possessive, it kind of felt like. And so I was drawn back there, I was guided back there, and I was walking along one of my favorite paths, and I saw this amazing glyph. And it was a pretty obvious message to me, even though the obvious thing is it says, I went this way. The other message was, this is your home, you belong here, you don't have to go anywhere else for lessons, although, I get energy greetings other places I go, and it's not really quite like the home clan though, and so it was a good day, good lesson, and obviously an amazing glyph. That's the beauty of a lot of their glyphs, is that the message is very, very obvious. And so that's why this is alternate reality heavyweight contender number 11. And also, the amazing glyph on your right is tied, because I just received that about 3 weeks ago. And this was in conjunction with a sighting. Anyway, coming out of a simulation period, which is kind of like a lull in activity or whatever. I mean, I still feel my guys with me and whatever all the time, but there's not a lot of activity. It doesn't feel intense. And then when you come out of those lulls, or those simulation periods, it seems like you have a way bigger knowing. And that was certainly the case with me this time. And this track and this glyph kind of signified it really kicking into high gear. And then I had other things happen, like the week prior, or the week after, I should say. And it's basically, it was just the individual that I saw that day left me that glyph just to let me know that, hey, you saw me and here I am, here's my track. Basically just a hello. And so these two are tied for the alternate reality heavyweight contender list, and they stand in the number 11 slot, and I've got no idea why, because they could certainly be a lot higher, but here they are, and there you have it. Heavyweight alternative reality contender number 10 is what I call the Snow-A. It's a very significant one for a number of reasons. It's one of the first times that I saw the A used in a really pronounced, like, standout way, like just like a billboard, like, like friendship welcome from the clan of RE. I mean, it was propped up in the snow. There were delicate little branch of a a vine or something that actually supported it if you look closely. Interesting to note that there were absolutely no tracks of any kind in the snow leading up to it, anywhere around it other than ours. Randy Bristol and myself were there. So that was interesting to note, and that's not unusual with Sasquatch, that they can do things and not leave tracks. That doesn't seem to be any kind of challenge for them. Some other interesting things that were going on. This was like early on in my first year or so it's a long time ago, 8-9 years ago. And I was getting that third eye confirmation energy that they're around. So that was kind of an introduction to recognizing they're around. That was going on at the time, and I was getting that. And we were hearing them walking around, or that individual. And we were also getting some smells and some energy and stuff of that nature. So it was a really, really good building block day, with all those things going on, and the nature of the A, the way that it stood out, and it's really like an absolute indicator of direct contact. It was obviously for us. So that is heavyweight alternative contender number 10, and it's significant, and I really like it.
Crossing guard's not doing his job. Traffic's not about to stop for the first casualty of thought. It's the rules. It's the rules. Farmers bent on the cover of Time. The moralists scream, he's all mine. So the bard isn't doing her job. The vacuum nights, the darkest rites, the small quarantine thoughts. It's the rules. It's the rules.
alternate reality heavyweight contender number 9 is another fun example of a RE, Friendship Welcome Glyph, the REA with the X signature in it. Oh, I'm sorry, correct that, the A signature for RE with the X, Welcome X from the clan of RE. This one is really special, amongst others, because it talks about the fact that they can really go anywhere and they can even follow you home or connect with you anywhere. Like I've actually had RE appear out of thin air in my room. Happened one time and it was amazing. It was funny, you know, because it's almost like, well, I mean, I do know him, but it was almost like I've known him for so long, because I just looked at it and it was just like, oh, okay. Wow. Hard to explain. But anyway, so this glyph, as you can see, is beautiful. It's laid out right in front of the townhouse where I lived at the time. You know, which is in the middle of town. And, you know, not that close to the forest. So it was laid out on the asphalt right in front of the townhouse, and there were literally no other sticks of any kind anywhere on the asphalt in front of any of the townhouses that I could see. And I mean, you know, it's obvious. I mean, look at these are laid out. The chance of them being random was ridiculous. Not even worth mentioning. But anyway, it speaks to the fact that they can follow you anywhere and, you know, go to your home, stuff like that. And actually, you know, at this time, when this was happening, Sue and I were going to a lot of conventions and stuff, and we don't do as much anymore, well, because of the situation in the world these days. But just kind of like, you know, we're not, we don't do as many as we used to. Nothing against that, mind you. I mean, everybody, I found out, you know, I mean, everybody I feel in the Sasquatch world has their place. Even the people who introduce them on the rudimentary level, and even if they're saying that they're apes or whatever, there's a value there, because they will bring a large number of people into, you know, a position of interest, and then those people will you know, find their own way in various avenues of understanding or whatever, so to speak. And you know, I can't judge what they're doing anyway. I mean, it's all of value. So anyway, I digress. But anyway, at this time, as I was saying, they were leaving a lot of glyphs in places where I was traveling to. And Sue and I were going to conventions and everything at the time, you know, visiting friends and whatever. And I remember on a couple of occasions. One time we were in a motel in Portland, and when we came out to get into my car in the parking lot, there was just like a pristine glyph right by my front door. Same thing happened in Seattle. One time we were playing tennis on a tennis court, and there was a glyph there, and I mean, it wasn't just a pile of sticks. I know what a glyph is, and you know, once again, it was pretty sparse of any kind of debris or sticks anywhere else, and it was just there. So I mean, they just can show up and let you know we're here, we're watching, we're with you, we love you, give you that comforting family thing, like that they're kind of with you and protecting you everywhere you go. And so this is alternate reality heavyweight contender number 9 for a lot of reasons. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's simple and yet elegant. The way it stands out, the message, you know, the fact that it taught me that they can put glyphs, or that they can communicate with you anywhere, not just in the woods. I mean, there was a lot behind it. It was a powerful glyph. It's a beautiful glyph. And I really like it.
Salesman said this vacuum's guaranteed. tuck an ancient virus from the sea. It could put the dog out of a job, could make traffic stop so little thoughts can safely get across. It's a ruse. It's a ruse. Guaranteed or not, it's a ruse.
Just keep that going.
Alternate reality, heavyweight contender number 8, is another version of the RE Friendship Welcome Glyph, which is RE's A signature with the Welcome X. As you can see, this one was a little unique and different. And this was the first time that I ever noticed them etch in the dirt or in the sand with their glyph. As you can see, they use the sticks. But part of the A is formed with etching in the sand, and that's very, very important because the year afterwards, the reason why it's important would become very, very evident the year afterwards. And this is a story that's coming up later in this video as to why it's very, very important. But this was an area where Sue and I used to go to yearly, and we had so many amazing experiences there. Just, I don't really want to go into any of them, but supernatural, magical, just beyond words connections with the Sasquatch. And this was one such time. And they also left us a really, really nice track that I'll show you right here. At the same time as they left this glyph. And this glyph was left right outside of our tent. And interestingly enough, Sue and I went for a hike for about an hour and a half after we discovered it, the morning after waking up and seeing it just outside the flap of our tent. And when we returned about an hour later, as you can see, the etching part has been smoothed over. So somebody came and changed the glyph while we were away, and time's a funny thing for them whenever they changed it, but in any event it was changed in our understanding and perception, and so very, very interesting. And like I said, this is a very important glyph because the etching in the sand answered a puzzle that came up exactly a year later when we came back to this place. And so this is glyph number 8, alternate reality heavyweight contender number 8. And not only is it a cool glyph and a greeting that was pertinent to the time that we found it, it's an amazing teaching glyph. And so I really, really like it.
As I was walking down the street one day, a man came up to me and asked me what the time was that was on my watch. Yeah, I said, does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care? If so, I can't imagine why we've all got time enough to cry.
Heavyweight alternate reality contender number 7 is actually a series of 3 glyphs. And at the time, I didn't really know what was going on, but shortly thereafter, I realized that the glyphs were about time. Time is a very, very important lesson for them, and the fact that it's totally different than it is for us. I think I've talked about that in some of my other videos. But needless to say, my wife, Susan Bland, and I have to confess, I'm sneaking that in maybe about a month early. The name Susan Bland, because we're actually getting married next month, but I kind of like the name, so I'm going to say it early. I think that's allowed, I hope. But anyway, my wife and I, at the time, were discussing time a lot, and the fact that, Sasquatch, our 3D linear understanding of time is very, very much different than theirs. And, some of the episodes that I have experienced of lost time involve them. And so at this time, ironic, at this time, we were thinking about time, ironically. And so one day I got out of my car to go to my one of my favorite places in the woods, and I was going to walk one of the trails that I frequent. And as soon as I got out of the car, to the left of my vehicle was this glyph that you see on the left-hand side. Now, the thing you want to key on is you see on the left-hand bottom side of the glyph, there's two sticks kind of roughly vertical, I guess, but at angles. And then there's roughly a horizontal one that's going at a slight angle too. And so the one that is horizontal, keep your eye on, because that's key to the story. So what happened is I got out of the car and I saw this glyph immediately waiting for me. And there's no question it was waiting for me. And that's why I say that they will leave you glyphs, and sometimes there's lessons and things involved in them. And that was certainly the case here. So I get out of the car and I have my trusty camera with me, of course. And so I take a picture of the glyph on the left. Took a picture of it, and then I suddenly looked to my left. Something caught my attention on my left. I looked to my left for just a brief moment, a matter of a few seconds. And as I turned back, as you can see on the right hand picture, the horizontal piece that I mentioned is now in a totally different position on the glyph. And if you notice, it's sticking up at a 9 o'clock angle, which is important too. And it is placed just over top of a little clump or a cluster of 2 or 3 sticks that are actually elevated off the ground. My point on that is that because they are elevated off the ground, that horizontal stick that we're looking at and focusing on had to have been physically or in some way picked up over top of those sticks that were sticking off the ground, because it couldn't have slid and there was no wind that day, and placed there. And actually, if you can notice, it's actually tucked in a little bit too. So all this happened in a few brief seconds. When I looked to my left and then back, the glyph was changed, which I find, which was amazing. So they changed the glyph basically right before my eyes, except my eyes were diverted for a brief second. Now, I apologize in advance. There is a third glyph, and I can't seem to find it. Like when you have thousands upon thousands of glyph pictures. And with the way I'm organized, hopefully I'll be a little more organized moving forward, because it's getting too tough to find some of these old pictures. But I can't seem to locate it. But I will describe what happened, and I will locate it. I've got it somewhere. So after I saw the second picture on the right, where the horizontal piece was moved from the 8 o'clock position, which once again is important, to the 9 o'clock position, I went for about an hour hike. And when I returned, the horizontal piece in the 9 o'clock position was now in the 10 o'clock position. And the two pieces farthest right, side by side, were removed, and there was 1 or 2 other changes. But in any event, the glyph was changed again, not right before my eyes, but in the maybe 45 minutes to an hour of my hike and upon my return. And so shortly thereafter, I started thinking about it, because that's how it works. They give you a lesson, and then they they start leading you, I guess, along a breadcrumb trail so that you can discover, the hidden gold in the lesson. So I was thinking about it, and then I realized, this is about time. They're teaching me about time in a couple of ways. And I associated the horizontal piece, like I said, it was in the 8 o'clock position. Then it looked like it was moved to the 9 o'clock position. Then at the 10 o'clock position, which represented time. And it kind of looks like an hourglass, or I'm not exactly sure why I thought the time connection, but I know that I did. And it was like, oh, okay, wow. And then it was like, yeah, it was not a random thought. So it was about time, and they were teaching me about time. Another key element to this story in regards to time is probably, or could be best illustrated through a story that was shared with me by Leanne Cisco-McCoy. And she told me that one time she was at a gathering of people. It might have been a concert or something. And the Sasquatch people were there. And she recalls that everybody was frozen in place as if they, were just like wax statues or mannequins. Kind of like in the old Star Trek episodes where they were frozen in place. And the Sasquatch could walk around them and do things while these people were frozen in place. So in other words, the Sasquatch were free to move around and maybe put a glyph or something in front of somebody, or do anything basically that they wanted. And it had to do with time, because time in the 3D linear understanding that we have does not exist for them. It's, I won't get into all of that right now, but it's different. And so this was illustrated through Leanne Cisco-McCoy's example, and I suspect that this may have been what they did to me. They may have frozen me in place without my knowing, did what they did with the glyph. When I look back, there it was changed. So there are so many lessons garnered from people sharing stories and whatever, and I think that is the real benefit to us sharing our stories. The overlapping of similar experiences teaches us things, and it's very important to share. It's very important to be honest about your sharing too, because, respecting the Sasquatch people by being honest, and also because we want to be honest so that we can learn in a true way. So being honest means not holding anything back, and just saying what you see. So this is Heavyweight Alternate Reality Contender number 7. And it was a very, very, very powerful lesson. And I'm continuing to this day to be taught lessons in time. And this was really the catalyst for when those lessons started. I was considering it, like I said, with Susan Bland, my wife. We were considering it and talking about it. But then they gave me this glyph and things just kick-started. And that's how it works with them. You start considering things. Then you see the thing you considered. And the journey starts, the lessons. And it's just, it's a beautiful, amazing way that they teach. And I'm so forever grateful. And this is the series of glyphs, I guess, that I would have to refer to as the time glyphs. And they're really, really special. Really, really special, and I love them a lot.
grows up to be somebody that just loves to learn, and another child grows up to be somebody you just love to burn. Mom loves the both of them. You see, it's in the blood. Both kids are good to mom. Blood's thicker than the mud. It's a family affair.
It's a family affair.
It's a family affair.
It's a family affair.
Oh, no, bad. Whoa, no, bad.
Heavyweight alternate reality contender number 6 is a beautiful, amazing example of a universal asterisk glyph. And as you can see, it's huge. I don't know, 50, 100 feet tall. It's enormous. And the interesting thing about this one is that my friend Randy Person told me that he went to this area where this amazing glyph was the day prior, and it was not there, and then he returned the next day, and there it was in all its majesty. And I've experienced that too, where I've seen amazing things where it hasn't been there, and then it's been there the next day, or even, moments later. So it's not uncommon. But in any event, this glyph is so amazing and so special because the universal asterisk refers to the universal connection, all one, all connected. The fact that we are all family and all connected is a beautiful message. And the way it stands out, and it's so huge, and it just, it announces that message to anybody who's open to it and who can read it, and it's a beautiful thing. The universal asterisk is a glyph I find quite often, and it's always profound, and it's always special, and there's always a very, very sacred meaning and a lesson behind it. And so this is the finest example of the universal asterisk I've ever seen to date. And seeing as it's one of their most pertinent messages for mankind at this time, the fact that we are all one and all connected, and that they're trying to awake us to that reality and to that understanding, it makes this glyph very, very special. And I love it a lot, and that is why I consider this glyph to be heavyweight alternate reality contender number 6.
Newlywed a year ago, we were just still checking each other out. Hey, nobody wants to blow, nobody wants to be left out. You can't leave cause your heart is there, but you can't stay cause you've been somewhere else. You can't cry cause you look broke down, but you're crying anyway cause you're all broke down. It's a family affair.
It's a family affair.
It's a family affair. Oh, yeah, a family affair.
Family affair.
come soon. Long as I can see the light, pack my bag and let's get moving. 'Cause I'm bound to drift. Ooh, I'm gone, gone. You don't have to worry, no. Long as I see the light.
Heavyweight alternative reality contender number 5 is what I refer to as the pinwheel glyphs. And it's a series of 3 glyphs. And when I combine these glyphs with the story of my 3 gift rocks, which they're intricately entwined together because of Lisa Fay, a good friend of Susan and myself. So, as I said, when it's combined with the gift rocks, it's probably my favorite story to tell, because they're one of, right up there, because it has so many different elements of Sasquatch abilities and speaks of their heart and connection, and it's just such a beautiful story of connecting people. It's beyond words. And so I think for the sake of this video, I will include the rock portion of the story as well, because like I said, the story is not done justice without the rocks. So I will do that. The first piece to this amazing story happened, I think, probably, if memory serves me correctly, in 2014. And that was when I came to a really, really tranquil, beautiful area by a fast-running stream that I like to go to when I wasn't hiking further and deeper into the woods, because it was fairly close in and it was magical, and I just it was connecting with nature and fulfill pretty much everything that I want to achieve when I go into the woods, spiritually and emotionally and connection-wise. So it's a favorite place, and actually had some amazing experiences there. And it was the place where I found the first piece to this amazing story, which is my first gift rock. And what's amazing about this rock is that it was placed on a stump, a great big huge stump, and I just had a knowing that it was for me. Even the shape was interesting. And so I picked it up and I took it home. And the very next day, the rock transformed from the color of a regular river rock, which is a light kind of gray with some black flecks in it, to a solid black rock. And the rock looked like my clan leader, Ari, in profile. That's what I see in it, and a lot of people who I have shown the rock to see the same thing. So it's a really powerful rock, and it's the first of the 3. And I received one rock a year for 3 years. And so, like I said, this rock transformed from the color of a river rock to solid black the next day. And so I remember about a year afterwards, I was way, way deep in my favorite place, the place where Sue and I found our initials in the sand, and where my first sighting with Ari was, and just an absolute special, sacred place to me. And so I was doing a solo hike, and I was just on my Thermarest mattress, just sleeping right out in the open, because it was, you know, an August night, I believe, fairly warm. Or was it September? I can't remember. I actually have been out there when it's been pretty darn cold too, and just about did my personal limitation of the Human Torch, trying to huddle so close to the fire. But in any event, I was there this night, and I could feel the presence of the Sasquatch people all around me. So there I was in my place of peace and solitude. It was the middle of the night, probably 1 or 2 in the morning. And I remember standing up and holding the RE rock up to the sky and expressing my absolute love and gratitude for my Forest People family and for the gifts and for the teachings and the knowledge. I was really pouring out my thankfulness for this rock, because I can't even describe how special it is to me. Even the singular rock before I got the other two was beyond special. And I was just expressing my gratitude. And so the very next day I got up early, and I packed up, and as soon as I hit the trail, I had just taken my first few steps heading home on the trail, and I heard a whoop, a real loud, clear, precise whoop. And there's no mistaking that sound. And it was a single one. It was clear, precise. And as soon as I heard it, I looked down to my feet on the forest path below, and there was another rock. And as soon as I picked that rock up, I had the classic version of Mindspeak in my head, and it said, "You will be getting a third." And this rock, you know, as I looked at it, whatever, you know, reminded me of a big Sasquatch face or an old Native Indian's face. And it was very, very obvious that it belonged with the other rock, and they were connected. They were connected to each other. They were connected to me. And like I said, I knew I was going to be getting a third. It's worth noting that this second rock and the third rock that I received approximately a year later were already the deep, rich black color of the first rock. But of course, the first rock initially was that light river rock kind of color, so it transformed to the black, which you know, was a powerful message too. It just speaks to the amazing things that they can do. I mean, I've seen RE, I've seen his face clear as a bell in a giant boulder, and it stayed there for 3 days when Sue and I were camped there, and then it was gone. So they're capable of unbelievable things. But my point is that this rock and the third rock were already the solid black color. Just wanted to make note of that. So the second rock came to me approximately a year, as I said, after the first one. And now I'm going to skip ahead to the GLYPHS story, because I'm going to try to follow the story in chronological order. This is when that portion of the tale came in. So in and around the time that I found my second rock, Sue went camping with a couple and a friend, Tobe Johnson and Lisa and Sean Fay, although they were not married at the time, but share a joyous union now, and it's had the honor of being at their wedding, and yeah, it's good friends of ours, and really, really happy for them. But in any event, at this time, Sue was camping with, like I said, Tobe and Lisa and Sean. And, you know, Tobe at this time had been pretty heavily involved in the Sasquatch world and paranormal, and just kind of an inquisitive kind of guy looking for answers and whatever, and a really good guy, bright guy, extremely creative guy. I am an extremely creative guy, so I know a creative person when I see one, and he's a gifted individual. But in any event, Lisa and Sue hit it off really, really well, and they're still really great friends today. We all are. But Lisa showed Sue this picture that was puzzling her. Now at this time, Lisa and Sean had just begun to have activity that they thought was maybe Sasquatch, or maybe they knew it was Sasquatch, but in any event, it was very early on in their journey. And Lisa wanted to show Sue a picture that puzzled her, and she didn't know what to associate it with. So she showed Sue the picture, and Sue recognized it as a glyph, because at that time, I had already been, 3, 4, 5 years into my glyph journey, and Sue recognized it immediately, and she said, "Hey, let me show my boyfriend Brian that. He knows something about glyphs, and maybe he can help you with it." So what happened is Sue sent me the picture on Facebook chat, in my chat box, and ironically or coincidentally, none of which are true, I happened to go out into the woods the very next day and was led. And in these days when I was being led places, it was really, really obvious. It was a period where they were just, go here, go there, and they'd have something for me, kind of thing. It was like an energy feeling. And it was also thought placement and some mind speak too. But anyway, they were going through a period where they were leading me here, there, and everywhere. And so on this particular day, the day after I saw Lisa's glyph that she was interested in, I parked my car and I walked perhaps 50 yards up a trail, and I noticed something that instantly caught my attention. It looked almost identical to Lisa's glyph. The stem sticking out at the top is a little longer on my initial one, but basically it's the same glyph, pinwheel. And it was identical enough that when I showed it to Lisa Faye, she was instantly connected in. She knew it was real. She knew there was something supernatural and surreal going on. She's very intuitive, and she just, it was her, as she would describe it probably, or maybe it's my words, but it was her eureka moment when she was connected into the phenomenon, and it was a huge step in where she could move forward from there. It was, I guess, acceptance. And so that was huge for Lisa, and I'm very, very honored to have been part of that, to have helped her along in that part of her journey, because it was just huge for her. It was like, wow, it's real. She showed me that glyph through Sue. I found the same one the next day, showed her. Her journey was well underway from that point on. So anyway, what is really, really beautiful about this is about a year after that, Sue and I had the pleasure of visiting Sean and Lisa in their rural place out in Oregon. And the Sasquatch basically live in their backyard, or they did up in the foothills, right up in the backyard. So they pretty much had a habituation, or very, very, I guess you would call it an habituation. And so we went and visited them, and we were walking out in her back field, and we just went out the back gate and down a path towards the mountains. And right directly in the middle of the path was the pinwheel glyph. This one, though, was so bright, and it stood out so beautifully. It was like pristine white, and it was put together so amazingly. And I mean, anybody who would even suggest that that was random, something wrong with you. Anyway, it was so obviously hand placed. And here's the kicker. Lisa's first glyph, I find the glyph, it ties her in to the phenomenon and to a relationship and getting a journey going with Sasquatch. And then we find this glyph at her house as Lisa, Sue, and I are walking along the path. And this glyph is the third of the three. It is also a pinwheel glyph. It's the most beautiful of them by far, just because it just stands out in stark contrast to the path below. But what is so heartfelt and beautiful about this glyph is that it is signed with R.E.'s personal A signature. And what that meant, and I knew it immediately as soon as I saw it, was we connected you two together so that Lisa could have her understanding and move on in her journey, because that's what they do. They connect people to enhance others' journeys, and they bring people together who need to help others. And basically what they were saying, obviously right there on the forest path below my feet, was that obvious message. We brought you together, and his signature in that third pinwheel glyph confirmed that he orchestrated it, the clan orchestrated it. And what an absolutely beautiful third message to tie it all together. And that's the beautiful way that the Sasquatch people communicate. That's the kind of amazing connection and communication I've been experiencing with them for many, many years. It's magical. It's beyond words. And I just feel like so privileged to be walking this path with them. I feel so privileged to have helped Lisa in any way that I could. And I feel so privileged to connect with anybody who may gain something from a connection with them. So yeah, that third glyph was just confirming the objective of the first two, and put a really, really beautiful ribbon on top. And wow, absolutely amazing. I received the third rock, once again, perhaps a year after the third glyph, which tied that portion of the story so beautifully together. And once again, Lisa Faye was involved in this. And it just really makes the entire story just so magical and whatever, and it just shows you how people connect and how, those connections just the magic that happens with those connections. It's really special, and to be able to understand what's going on and to witness it over and over and over again and how it works is just it's a spiritual journey, put it that way. It's very, very deep, and it's amazing. So on this particular occasion, when I received the third rock, I was at a little gathering of friends at Jeff Roan's place, which was at the southernmost part of Washington, just before the border with Oregon. And we were all gathered there, perhaps about 6 of us, all people who were interested in Sasquatch and spirituality, and there was a very, very high energy there. And I recall during the day that Lisa had went for a hike and she had found a very significant glyph and came back and mentioned it to me, because obviously, she knew of my connection with glyphs, so I'm probably the first person she would tell that to, or in that setting anyway, because of my association with glyphs. So she was excited about it, and I said, hey, let's go back and have a look at it. So a group of us went back, and we saw the glyph, and here it is here, and it's amazing. And as we were showing it around to everybody, Jeff Rohn said, this looks like the floor plan to my place. And I honestly feel that it is. I feel that the Sasquatch were giving us this glyph to acknowledge that they thought that this meeting was very, very important. And it certainly was for me, because I did receive my third stone. So it was extremely important to me. And so during that time when we were all gathered and talking and enjoying each other's company, fellowship, Sue and I had just been across the street by a nice little river that was directly across from Jeff's place, and we had just returned. And then Lisa and Sean, I believe, went over there, and when they returned, Lisa handed me a rock that she said she had found sitting perched up on top of a big boulder, and we had just been there and I hadn't seen it. But anyway, she handed me the rock and she said, Brian, this is for you. And she said that those words came to her, or no, I'm sorry, let me get this perfectly straight. I believe the Mind Speak said, this is for Brian. And so when she came across the road back to the gathering or whatever, she gave it to me and told me that was the message she had received. And so I took the rock, and I could see immediately that it was family to the other two. I think that most people looking at them can see that they look like they're connected. I love the way at the top that the angles all go down in the same direction. And I love the fact that, from big to medium to small. Another interesting point is that the biggest rock, the RE rock, is the roughest. The middle one is a little smoother, and the third smaller one is the smoothest of all. So they just have a connection. And obviously, just by me relating this story, it's obvious that they have a connection. And I received one a year for a period of 3 years. But, I used to carry these rocks around with me all over the place, but now I kind of keep them away in a little safe place and bring them out once in a while, because they're very, very precious to me. And I could lose a lot of things, but losing Susan would be one thing I would never want to lose, and losing these rocks would be another. I'm not really attached to possessions, property, money, those kind of pursuits, but these things are different. And so they're very, very special to me. And so as Lisa handed me the third rock, and I was looking at it, I handed it to Sue, and she was looking at it closely, and she looked at the bottom, and she said, Brian, your name's written on the bottom of this rock. Now, for whatever reason, I didn't really pay much attention to what she said. I guess I was talking to other people or whatever, but didn't really examine the rock closely at that time. But approximately a month later, Sue and I were driving down the road, and I was in the passenger seat looking at my rock, twisting it back and forth, looking at the bottom, when all of a sudden it was, oh my God, it just jumped out at me. There it was, clearly written on the bottom of the rock, B-R-I-A-N. And it was like, oh my God. And the funny thing is that it did not look like it was just scratched or etched in there like recently. It looked ancient, the writing, which, amazed me. So in summation, I would like to say that I actually have no idea how this ended up in the number 5 slot. I suppose, being the alternate reality heavyweight contender top 12 list, I'm judging this 5th selection basically or solely on the stick lifts. But even then, even that portion of the story is remarkable, and I probably place it a little too low on the rankings. But guess what? I put 2 or 3 weeks of hard work into this video, and we're just going to have to let it sit where it is. But in conjunction, or the combination of the stones and the glyphs together as a story is probably unparalleled, or right up there with, just a remarkable story. It speaks so much of the Sasquatch's abilities, of their heart, and it's just a very, very special story to me. And you know what, at this point, getting back to the stones, I know that I have work to do with those stones. They were given to me for a purpose. That purpose I haven't deciphered yet, probably because I've been haven't been concentrating on it. But there is some reason and some work that I have to do with those stones, I think. And so I'm going to try to figure out what that is. I want to add one very important point that I forgot initially, and that is that when I first found the RE rock, my first gift rock, I went back to that exact spot less than a week later, probably 2 or 3 days later, and this is quite remote. Like I said, it's not as far out as some of my places, and further out than others as well. But it's not a long way out, but it's still in a remote place where, when I explain what happened, you'll get my gist. So if you notice, the gift rock, as I initially received it, was placed on a very large stump, maybe 10-15 yards offshore from the fast-running creek. But anyway, the next time that I went back, that stump was gone. And this is not a place where people start fires or utilize wood in any way. It's a protected reserve kind of place, and so that is not possible. Nobody hauled that big stump out. It was quite big. So the fact that the stump was gone, I felt was kind of neat too. And in retrospect, sometimes I think they do those things just to see if you notice. Just to lead you a little further down the rabbit hole of discovery. But there was no explanation why that stump was gone. It was huge. No one would have carried it out. The river didn't carry it away. But somebody removed it, so. Just another fun aspect of an amazing story. But in any event, this was a remarkable story. It has no business being in the number 5 slot, like I said, but we'll let it stay there. And I would just like to say that this is heavyweight alternate reality contender number 5. It's remarkable and very, very special to me.
Guess I've got that old traveling bone. But if you won't leave me alone, but I won't
perspective comes the way it always does for its ransom. So randomly, somebody calls, the phone rings and it brings Niagara Falls at 3 o'clock in the morning. You'd better be dying, and you were, so we talked about time. Well, it went unremarkable events. Now 1 day took 2 days, and they got spent. How you'd continue carefully in degrees, trying to do one true beautiful thing. And your beautiful thing, it'd be a beautiful thing to see that beautiful thing continue.
Heavyweight alternative reality contender number 4 appears to be just a common welcome X, but it's far more than that. The story behind it was absolutely amazing. It was a weekend where Sue and I were camped for a 3-day excursion in one of our favorite places, 5 or 6 kilometers, which is probably like 3.5 miles or so for you US people, back in the woods by a beautiful creek, beautiful scenic mountain, just paradise back there. And we were there for 3 days, and the entire time we were there we had a pair of ravens that were watching us, observing us very, very closely. And we were feeding them, and we had fed them before too. I think it was the same pair, because they, birds like blue jays, robins, well, blue jays for sure. I mean, a lot of birds come back, and they, year after year, if they migrate or whatever they do, they seem to come back to the same nests, the same areas year after year, is my point. And so I suspect it was probably the same pair that we had fed before. But in any event, the Sasquatch people and ravens have a very, very spiritual, very close connection. I've had many, many experiences where I felt that the Sasquatch were looking through the raven's eyes, or working through the raven, or maybe even shapeshifted into a raven. I remember one time I saw a raven in this very area that I swear it was about 3 feet tall, and it was on the ground. And wow, that was amazing. But my experiences have told me that that they can do all those things. So we were there for 3 days, camped by this beautiful little creek, totally alone. And like I said, the ravens were observing us for 3 straight days. I think on the last full day that Susan and I were there, we stretched out 2 towels on a little sandy area right by the river, and it was sunny out, it was warm, and we were just enjoying, relaxing in paradise. I mean, there's no place we'd rather be, her and I. It's a special place. We love it. It feels like home. And so we're stretched out there, and we had just put our towels down on this sandy little area by the creek shore. And we're looking out across the river, and I see one of the ravens observing us from a lofty perch across the river. And shortly after I noticed that, like I said, we had just put the blankets down. And I looked down, and there was a welcome X between Susan and myself's blanket. Except part of the X was touching my blanket, which defies logic. It had to have been put there, obviously, after I laid the blanket down. Stands to reason. And, there's just no other explanation for it. So there was this friendship welcome X that just appeared disappeared on the blanket. And the entire 3 days we were there was magical. We heard a Sasquatch person shuffling around in the bushes the day before, and just energy, and we could feel the presence of RE, and it was just absolutely beyond words magical. So, like I said, okay, so we observed this X placed on the blanket. No other explanation. I mean, it defies logic other than it was placed there after the fact. And like I said, I see this raven watching us from across the creek on a lofty perch. And just after I noticed the X, we suddenly see the raven come flying over top of us, and it flies directly over us and then disappears. And then something told me to go back to where we had our firewood stacked for the night, because we were going to spend the last night there. Something, thought placement. Classic example of that. So I went back to where the firewood was stacked. We had our supplies. And there was a single raven feather laying right there. Pristine single raven feather right directly by the firewood. And I was guided to go back there. And 100% unequivocally, that feather was not there. Sue and I both knew it was not there. It was placed there as a gift after the raven flew directly over our heads. Now there's more, which is really, really interesting, because Sue and I both took a number of pictures of the feather by the stack of wood. I took 2 or 3, and Sue probably took 3 or 4 for sure, more than me. And so later in the evening, she suggested, hey, let's check those pictures out. And so she started going through her camera, and once again, pictures taken off your camera. All 4 of the pictures that she took of the feather by the stack of wood were gone off her camera. Nothing else was touched, only those 4 pictures. And then she said, well, check yours. And I said, well, I wasn't sure, but I wasn't surprised when I checked mine, and the 2 pictures that I had taken of the feather by the wood pile were also gone, removed from my camera. This has happened a handful of times with me. And there's always a lesson behind it. Or maybe there was something sensitive that they did not want us to see in that particular picture. It's hard to say. There could be a number of reasons why they removed it. Sometimes it's just to teach you a lesson and to show you what they can do. So you can chew on it and think about it and then come up with something later on down the road. That always happens. But anyway, it was an amazing weekend. And because of all the lessons and the magical connection and Sue and I being together there and just being in our paradise, I am going to say that this glyph, the Welcome X, is heavyweight alternative reality contender number 4. And one I'll never forget.
Hi, I just wanted to mention that although the Sasquatch people did remove all of the pictures of the feather by the wood stack from both of our cameras, we were allowed to keep a video. And I don't know how they differentiated between the two and what the difference was, but in any event, the video that you're watching here is the actual video from what happened, and we were allowed to keep that. So that's a blessing.
been alone with you inside my mind, and in my dreams I've kissed your lips 1,000 times. I sometimes see you pass outside my door. Hello, is it me you're looking for? I can see it in your eyes, I can see it in your smile. You're all I've ever wanted, and my arms are open wide. 'Cause you know just what to say, and you know just what to do. And I want to tell you so much, I love you. I long to see the sunlight in your hair and tell you time and time again how much I care. Sometimes I feel my heart will overflow. Hello, I've just got to let you know, 'cause I wonder where you are, and I wonder what you do. Are you somewhere feeling lonely, or is someone loving you? Tell me how to win your heart, for I haven't got a clue. But let me start by saying I love you.
Heavyweight Alternate Reality Contender number 3 is a combo glyph that features the infinity symbol, the 8, in combination with the pi, which is the man, God, universe symbol. Not really a whole lot more to say about this other than, as you notice, it looks like it was done with shoelaces, which, is not unusual, because I've always said that the Sasquatch will use whatever is available to leave their messages. It's no coincidence that I was very, very heavily involved in my understanding with the pi glyph at the time, and about infinity, and just what this particular glyph represents. So it was very relevant to what I was going through at the time, which is always important. And so to me, this glyph means, that we are eternal beings, which is something I learned when I had my love zap. I knew instantly we were eternal beings and all connected. It was an instant knowing. So the 8 represents our eternal nature, and the pi represents man, God, universe, all one, all connected. So it talks about our connected nature and our eternal nature. And that's a really, really beautiful message. And like I said, it was really, really pertinent to the lessons I was going through right at that particular time. I love this glyph because, of the timing, as I just mentioned. Its creativity is off the charts. It's just beautiful. Its meaning is undeniable for me, who it was intended for. And it's just another one that really, really touches my heart. And I'm so grateful for the way that they teach me, the unique way and the relationship that we have. As many of you have your own unique relationships with them, and wouldn't trade them for anyone else's, which is as it should be. So I'm really, really grateful for this glyph that I received. I'm grateful for the message, the timing of the message, the beauty and the creativity that they often express in their glyphs, and just the loving, hopeful message that it gives. So this is Heavyweight Alternate Reality Contender number 3, and it's really special.
Are you somewhere feeling lonely? Is someone loving you? Tell me how to win your heart, for I haven't got a clue. But let me start by saying I love you.
In your mind, you have capacities, you know, to telepath messages through the vast unknown. Please close your eyes and concentrate with every thought you think upon the recitation we're about to sing. Of interplanetary craft, calling occupants of interplanetary most extraordinary craft. Calling occupants of interplanetary craft. Calling occupants of interplanetary craft.
Heavyweight Alternative Reality Contender number 2 is the Man-Pi combo glyph. This glyph was a really, really powerful teaching lesson. And what happened was that I've got a really good friend, somebody that been joining me on excursions into the woods, and we've had some amazing adventures together. As a matter of fact, he was the fellow who was with me on the occasion when Forshna walked right across the trail right in front of us, and he saw the small dog. But in any event, my friend Randy asked me if I would accompany him to a conference that he was attending, and I think there were 4 speakers, and it was quite costly, and it was an all-day conference. And the subject matter was moderately interesting to me, but the cost and like a 10-hour thing kind of made me decide maybe I didn't want to go. But Randy seemed to be very, very insistent I go, and I think that he had some gratitude. Wanted to repay me for some of the things that we had experienced in the woods and I had introduced him to, and so I realized that it was really, really important to him, so I did go. And well, it wasn't an accident that I went there, no coincidences, right? So as I got there, the first speaker starts talking about the pi glyph, or the pi symbol, and I think he might even call it a glyph, but the pi symbol. And the funny thing is that, I get so many different glyphs in the woods, and they're constantly introducing new ones. Well, right at this particular time, they were introducing a lot of the pi glyphs. And, it was a new thing. And as I've said before, once they introduce a new glyph, they continue forward with it, and then you may eventually understand the meaning of it. But you understand it or recognize it as something that they do. They constantly add on. It's kind of like school. It gets a little more complicated as you move up in grade. So, in any event, I did attend the conference, and the first speaker is pretty much as soon as I got there, he started talking about the pi glyph, and that in many religious disciplines, it meant man, God, universe, all connected. And that really hit home. When I heard that, I knew instantly why I was there. Because that's the Sasquatch message. Man, God, universe, all one, all connected. And, I was seeing that with the pi glyph. So it all made sense, and I knew immediately why I was there, and I knew it was no coincidence that I was there. And actually, speaker 4 has something very, very relevant to my wife, Susan, and I apologize, I can't recall what it was, but there was another reason I was there. But in any event, so I realized that was why I was there. Man, God, universe, the pi glyph. And I had received that lesson, in many ways with a love zap, with like a download of information. And often with glyphs and messages through glyphs. And there's also an energy and an instant kind of energy recognition with glyphs too. So they're telepathic often as well. But they showed me basically in a number of ways that we are all one and all connected. So this was significant, and I knew instantly why I was there. And so when I went home, I got up the next day and went immediately to the woods, and I parked my car and got out and walked about maybe 100 yards. And there, you see it, is this glyph that was lying right where I was led to. Because, they lead you places. When they have a message, then they'll lead you to the conclusion of the message, which was in this glyph, as you can see. And what it is a stick man in combination with a pi glyph. So that was their confirmation to me. Man, God, universe, all one, all connected. And, the stick man represents man, of course. The pi glyph alone kind of says that message, but the stick man in there really gives it an extra touch, and it makes it, undeniable. So that is absolutely beautiful, amazing, and magical how I was led there to that conference to get that message about what the pi glyph meant. The very next day I led into the woods, and I get their confirmation saying, yes, that is what it meant, and we are all one and all connected. What a beautiful, loving message. And for that reason, this beautiful and powerful message and beautiful glyph is heavyweight, alternate reality contender number 2, and it's a beauty.
Far beyond the norm, you close your eyes, you concentrate together, that's the way to send the message we declare world contact.
People always seem to know when it's time to call. Rainy day people don't talk, they just listen till they've heard it all. Rainy day lovers don't lie when they tell you they've been down like you. Rainy day people don't mind if you're crying a tear or two. If you get lonely, all you really need is that rainy day love. Rainy day people all know there's no sorrow they can rise above. Rainy day lovers don't love any others, that would not be kind. Rainy day people all know how it hangs on a piece of mind. Rainy day lovers don't lie when they tell you they've been down there too. Rainy day people don't mind if you're crying a tear or two. Rainy day people always seem to know when you're... Hey everybody. I thought I'd get dressed up in my Canadian sports jacket to announce the #1 heavyweight alternative reality contender and the heavyweight champion, the Brian and Sue Initials Club. Yeah, what a memory. What a fantastic, fantastic memory.
And before I get into the meat of the story, sorry for all you vegetarians out there, that's just terminology. But before I get into the meat of the story, I wanted to tell you about a very, very important update. This is huge. And, you know, once again, it speaks to what I've always said. That is why I document all my glyph pictures and all my experiences, because I look back on these pictures and, you know, years later, which is the case. In this case, it's what has it been? You know, it's got to be 7 or 8 years since those initials. You know, and that's a modest judgment. Probably 213, or well, maybe around 213. So that's a while back. And as I was preparing the picture, as I was getting the picture ready to put in this particular video, I looked at it and I saw something that instantly brought me to tears. Like I was overcome, weeping. It was so beautiful. And once again speaks to the importance of why I document these things. You know, under the SB initials, I never saw it before, it's very, very clear to me now, is a figure 8, which is the eternity symbol. And, you know, I can remember 2 times when, at least 2 times, 2 significant times that I can recall off the top of my head, when I was giving that all-knowing about, you know, eternal beings or whatever. One time was when Sue and I first looked into each other's eyes. There was a big download of information and the most loving energy you could imagine. But one of the messages that I did get is that we are eternal beings. As soon as I looked into her eyes, I knew that we had been together forever, that we had lived many lives together, and, excuse me, that kind of thing. And the other time was with the love zap, you know, when I knew we were eternal beings and all connected and all one. Both extremely significant times. And, but you know, what is so significant and what brought me to tears and like overwhelmed me with emotion is the fact that this message is, you know, Susan and Brian is acknowledging us in our union and, you know, our connection to the Sasquatch clan that left it. Because, you know, if you're not connected to them and they don't love you, they're not going to leave you your initials in the sand. So that goes without saying. But not only that, but with that figure 8 there, that's also talking about our eternal nature. And the Sasquatch are confirming that, you know, we are eternal beings. That is confirming that in this glyph. It's saying that Susan and I are eternal beings. Or we're not special, you know, we all are. So it's a powerful message, and it just, I don't know why that 8 escaped me. Other than to say that these things come to you at the right time. Some of the most obvious things can escape you until the time is right, and it's very significant. So anyway, that was my realization on this glyph, which is the heavyweight alternative reality contender and winner, number 1. But now I'll get to the meat of the story. So as I said, heavyweight alternative reality winner and number 1 glyph in this series is the Susan and Brian glyph. There's way more behind this story than, excuse me, just that single initial. But I'm going to start a year prior. You see, this is an area where Susan and I, we just love. This is probably one of our favorite places in the woods that we go to. It's serene, tranquil. It's right by a stream. It's, you know, about 4 miles deep in the woods. It's remote. Generally, there's no other people there when we're there, almost every time. And we just love it. So we usually, we would generally go there once or twice a year, and on a hot August night, and the sky would be big and open up, and all the stars and the mountains would be surrounding you, and it was just peaceful and magical. And we really, really loved the place. So we were there a year prior, and a very significant thing happened. We got a glyph outside our tent when we woke up on the second day, which was an XA glyph. But part of the glyph, as you can see here, was etched in the sand with a big finger, obviously, or a stick. So that's very, very important to note. And another interesting thing on that particular glyph, the one that was etched in the sand with the stick, is that Susan and I went away for maybe an hour. We went for a little hike in the morning. When we came back, as you can see in this picture, the etching in the sand is smoothed over, and just the friendship welcome X is there. Oh yes, by the way, the XA would be a friendship welcome from the clan of RE, which is quite appropriate considering the circumstances, waking up in their home and their that greeting. So the significant thing here is that the initial glyph, part of it was etched in the sand with, like I said, a finger or stick. So the next year we went back there, and once again a really, really magical time. And the Sasquatch love positive energy, and Susan and I love each other, and we're kind of got an innocence about us, childlike. I wouldn't say naive, and childlike, and like a good, positive, hopeful energy, I suppose, and maybe not completely jaded by things, but whatever. And the Sasquatch are always attracted to that, and of course they're connected to us, both of us. I mean, they brought Susan and I together. So we're there, and we're picking berries. We're picking berries and eating them and laughing and talking about which one do we like better, the orange ones or the red ones. And orange is my favorite color, and I preferred the orange ones and the taste, actually, and Susan liked the red ones. But that's worth noting because, the Sasquatch, they were watching us the entire time. I also recall that we had one really, really beautiful track in the sand, too, we discovered. But in any event, so we decided that we were going to take a little hike and head to a place that we had been to the prior year where we really liked it. It was a sandy little place, once again by a creek and whatever. And last time we had been there, we had seen like butterflies, monarch butterflies, and it was just really peaceful, and we really enjoyed it. We thought, well, we're going to head back there. Excuse me. So we start heading there and whatever, and it's only 15 minutes away. We have to maneuver over a few obstacles, a lot of deadfall and whatever back in that area over the creek and stuff. But we made our way there, and as we're going, we noticed a big SB in the sand. And my initial is B, and Susan is obviously S. So that was curious, and I mean, I wasn't totally convinced at the time because I thought, well, I guess it's possible somebody could put that in there, although it did appear to be fresh. And to be honest, like I said, when we go back there, you don't see any other people. We didn't see any other people, I don't think, the entire time we were there. Also interesting to note that it rains there a lot, so nothing can really stay there for too long. But anyway, so we saw this one SB. Interesting to note too, I didn't really see any footprints or tracks of humans around them, or this one, or the ones that were to follow. So an interesting SB, and then we followed the route to where we were going, going to the place we had enjoyed being at the prior year, and we saw 6 or 7 other sets of the SBs. And what was interesting is that the last set led us pretty much directly to the place that we were going. where our intended destination was, where the butterflies and all that were. And right at that place too was a small rock stack. Very interesting. So, you know, being pragmatic or whatever, moving on, you know, after about the second or third one, I started thinking this is probably definitely Sasquatch. But, you know, now I know there's no question about it. But, yeah, it's just, you know, they can do some things that people would do, but there's just no way with that one. It was magical. And so, as Susan and I decided that we were going to head back to camp, we decided, well, we'll head through the brush, which is really, really thick. And it's got barbs and everything, and it's little ditches with water and little things in it. So it's not the best route to take, but it's a little shorter. So we decided that we were going to take that route. So we did. And about 3/4 of the way through this underbrush and foliage and stuff, we came to like a little opening kind of thing, and Sue noted that it looked like something had laid down there. And it did look like something large had laid down there. And then we saw in the middle of this opening, and right in the place where it looked like something had laid down, a single orange berry, my color, I might add. And it was placed right in the middle of this opening, and it was pristine. It was not squished or anything. And the other interesting thing is that right in the area around it, like, there were no berry bushes. It did not fall there. It had to have been placed there by hand. And that was obviously a message to us that the Sasquatch had been watching us, because we had been picking berries and we had been laughing and enjoying each other's company and on a really high vibration. And they were watching us, and they were letting us know by placing that berry there that they were watching us. And, you know, I mean, by the very next day I was pretty much 100% convinced about the initials in the sand too. But, you know, you want to remain pragmatic too. I mean, but some things are beyond coincidence. And so, in closing, I remember that when we got to the other side of that opening and back on the trail, the actual trail. Yes, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for stopping in and sharing my story with everybody. Or sharing yourself on my story. Anyway, so as I was saying, as we got to the other side of the trail, Sue heard something large, and like, my hearing's not as good as some people. She heard something large moving around in the exact area in the bush where that berry had been. So, very, very interesting day, very loving day, a day of connection between ourselves and the Sasquatch people. Once again, them showing us in such a loving gesture by leaving our initials and that berry, that we are family to them, that they love us, you know, and that we're all one and all connected. And I really appreciate that relationship. I know Sue does. And this is an outstanding glyph. Because a glyph can be an etching in the sand. A glyph can be with rocks. You know, the most common ones are with sticks, but and they can be very small and they can be monstrously big. But in any event, this is a very heartfelt glyph. And it's a very special moment to me, a very special teaching moment, a very special connection moment, a very loving family connection moment. And that's why this glyph is heavyweight, alternate reality contender #1. And to say I love it would be an understatement.
Think of your fellow man, lend him a helping hand, put a little love in your heart. You see it's getting late, oh please don't hesitate, put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place.
heart. And the world will be a better place. And the world will be a better place for you and me. You just wait and see, baby. Take a good look around, and if you're looking down, put a little love in your heart. I hope when you decide, kindness will be your guide. Put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place. And the world will be a better place for you and me. You just wait and see. A little love in your heart. Put a little love in your heart. It'll come your way. Put a little love in your heart. Put a little love in your heart. Come on in, baby. Come on, put a little love in your heart. You got to put a little love in your heart. Oh.